Hey, what's up, fellas? It is Josh Thomas here, aka DFS up north, here to break down the showdown between the Packers and the 49ers tonight. I just coming in from doing my Christmas lights here. We got a nice day up in Minnesota, so my wife apparently thinks it needs to look like frickin' Whoville out there. So I've been busy with that. I got the notes out here, ready to kind of attack this showdown game tonight. Really excited. I think it's going to be a good game, but which means it'll absolutely be a dud. But yeah, I think that the Pack are overrated. I think that the 49ers are overrated. And I think that there's actually going to be a decent amount of scoring in this game. So let's get to it here. We've got 48-point total, a 3-point spread. So what that tells me is that this is on a neutral site. This is a pretty much a dead even game. The 49ers are at home, so they're the 3-point favorites here. I think the Pack are overrated, but I also think that this is Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't matter how good the defense is, they're going to get it done. So take a look at FanDuel first here, kind of see where I'm at. Currently, QB and RB is king on FanDuel, right? You can try to throw a wide receiver in here, whatever. I just try to stick to what we know works, right? And I want to kind of take that into account and run my lineups accordingly with that. So right now I got Rodgers, Garoppolo, Coleman, and Jones in this spot. I think that the two QBs here are the most likely to be your MVP tonight. So I've got them for about 75% of my exposure, and then splitting up that last 25 with Coleman and Jones. Like I talked about last week, like if you want to lock a guy in and then just, try to get every single combination that you can with them, and so hopefully you hit the nuts if they're the MVP, I don't mind that strategy. And with the games that they have on FanDuel with like these quarter for 150, the dime for 150, the nickel for 150, you can do this with separate guys. So you can run Aaron Rodgers in all your quarter lineups. You can run Jimmy Garoppolo in all your dimes, or $1 or $4 or whatever your kind of bankroll and budget is. I do kind of like that strategy. You're building a ton of lineups, but that's what we have the DS for, right? You're really just, you're putting that one MVP in, you're setting rules for that, and then you just let it buck. It really doesn't take that much time. So maybe we'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. So like I said, I really like Rodgers here just because it's Rodgers. I think that they're not going to be able to run the ball. I think he's going to be forced to throw it. So we're going to have, 45, passes here. So Rodgers and Devontae Adams together are really, if I had to pick three guys in a lineup, it'd be Rodgers, Garoppolo, and Devontae Adams. At least on FanDuel. I think that those three, if I can get Tevin Coleman in there as well, which I don't think is that possible unless we really punt somebody. But you know who we got today? My boy, Juszczyk. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think that Jimmy G, he's had some huge games. He's had some floor games. Best way to attack these guys is through the run. So I don't see Jimmy G throwing for, 100 and, throwing it 35, 36 times like he has in the past couple of weeks. It's possible, but I would imagine they try to pound the rock here. With Coleman, with Mostert, Breida is out. So with Breida out, that gets me on Tevin Coleman. I think that Tevin Coleman's going to get all the work that he can handle. I wrote in here, though, I really think he needs to start fast. I think that Kyle Shanahan kind of comes in with a plan, like, okay, we're going to play Coleman for three possessions in a row, and then we'll give Mostert one or whatever. But they've been kind of going with the hot hand here, so we need Coleman to have a really good first drive. Rack up 30 some yards, a couple of catches maybe, and I'll feel good about the rest of the night if that's the case. So he's ultra cheap on FanDuel. All right, for the matchup, like you gotta play some Coleman here. Whether that's in the cabin spot, he really I should have core here for him in the flex at this price. So like him, Aaron Jones, another guy with a super high ceiling and basically no floor. He could have 60 yards and 3 touchdowns, or he could have 60 yards and nothing, right? So we're going from like a 35-point floor to a 35-point ceiling to like a 3, 4, 5, 6-point floor. That's absolutely realistic for Aaron Jones here. I think you get some exposure, but don't go crazy on Jones today. And I think over on DK, like I talk about in a second here, I really do like Jamal Williams. They actually split carries last week, so definitely in play over there. As we come back over here, like I said, Devontae Adams. We're at this point, I'm just expecting 100 yards and a TD. He could go more than that. He can go a little bit under. I really like him to get that 100-point bonus. But he definitely can be in that sort of 100-yard and a TD range. And at 14,000, that's a big price, but he pretty much needs that, right? But again, if I'm playing all these Rodgers lineups, he's the guy who's going to who likely is going to be on the receiving end a lot of these passes. So we talked about Tevin Coleman. I really do like Deebo Samuel coming off the injury here. He had a shoulder injury, went out for a little bit, came back in, and was fine, and actually had a massive game after that. So I do like Deebo. Manny Sanders for $500 more. I just try to play Deebo at this point. I think that people will probably go back to Sanders here as he's healthy. He says he's feeling less pain, but I just rather play Deebo. George Kittle is interesting. We need to watch the injury report. Him, Samuel, and Sanders are all listed as questionable right now. I think that Kittle's probably the least likely to play. Even though I think he's the least likely of those three to play, I still think he plays. I left him in my season long. He's a monster. Coach said if it was anybody but George Kittle, he'd already have ruled him out. But Kittle seems to be fine. So he's been playing with a broken bone in his foot and now has that ankle issue. So 12.5 is a decent price to pay. I actually really like him on SuperDraft where they've jacked up his multiplier because of the injury. So I do like him over there. 12.5 is a lot to pay, but if you're running Jimmy G lineups, obviously you're going to want some Kittle in there too, and even in Rodgers lineups, right? So Jamal Williams. The fact that Jamal Williams and Tevin Coleman are $500 apart is kind of insane on FanDuel. I think Jamal Williams is a much better DraftKings play because of the PBR bonus, but he is, like I said, he split touches last week with Jones. They both had 13 carries. Jones had 3 touchdowns. Williams had 0. Like at some point that's going to, even out. They're obviously going to Jones in the red zone a little bit more, which is concerning, but Williams has that busted ability. And I think that, whereas Jones is more a straight up header runner, we're going to get Williams on the outside, try to set the edge, and let him get out there. And I like him here. Kendrick Bourne, super cheap, 9,000. He's really stepped into a pretty consistent role. Now, that being said, Kittle's coming back. That might hurt him a little bit here, but Kendrick Bourne at 9,000 definitely in play. Jimmy Graham, one of my favorite super draft plays for the day. They're number 1 against the tight end. So, it's the NFL. Like anybody can do anything, any game. Obviously, as we've seen kind of already in the early slate of the games on DraftKings or the other weekend when every dud tight end scored a touchdown. So I like Jimmy Graham. He had a touchdown called back last week. I think that he is in a decent spot here to really receive some volume. He's a crazy red zone target for Rodgers. He's looking his way all the time. So I think he's got a touchdown and 40, 50, 60 yards, 5-6 reception upside. And the ceiling, maybe a 2 touchdown game. That 48-point total is really intriguing to me. When I looked at that earlier in the week, I clicked on it assuming we're going to see around 40. But that's one of the highest total games for the week. So I like the passing options here. With Matt Breida out, Mostert should get some work. He's explosive. He can kind of bust one every now and then, but other than that, he doesn't get me super excited outside of the price, right? I like the price here. What the? Marquez Valdez-Scantling has had back-to-back zeros. He should not be $6,000 on FanDuel. That is insane, right? So if you're running a Rodgers stack, like you pretty much, you're going to be, I have it as 10 to 15. Like this could be 30, 40, even higher, especially if you're trying to run that 150 lineups with Rodgers. Like MVS at 6,000 is an insane number. It's not like he got shitty in the last 2 weeks, right? He's dealing with some injury stuff, but 6,000 is ridiculous. So we got MVS there. Crosby, Chase McLaughlin. McLaughlin's got the bomb. Hold on, I want to see who's winning this game here. Did the Saints take her down? Yep, they kicked the field goal and got her done. So I just want to check and make sure MVS is in play here this week. I believe he is, but I just want to make sure he's not dealing with any sort of injuries because that projection seems so low. 3 points. Like I get that it's that he hasn't done much lately, but that seems insane to me. Valdez, and he's so cheap on the primetime slate too. Only had 1 target, 2 targets the last 2 weeks. I don't care. Like I'll play a ton of Scantling Like, this was a guy that earlier in the year he had a 10 target game. He's turned a 3 target game into 133 yards. Like, he's explosive. So 6,000 is an insane price for him here. Mason Crosby, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. Like, he's not gonna have a 20-point game, whereas Chase McLaughlin could, right? McLaughlin can hit bombs from 50 plus. Crosby's 100 years old. He's just not doing that anymore. Lazard has seen his snap count go down the last couple weeks, just consistently down, but he's still seeing targets. He had 4 last week. That's 3 more than Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So the $8,000 price tag is a little ridiculous. That's on recency bias here, but he's in play. Same thing with Allison, $6,000. This guy's playing almost every single snap. What is he priced down here for? It's insane, right? So I don't know if they're just begging me to play these Green Bay wide receivers, but I'm gonna. I like them both. So use check in play. More of a DraftKings play for me this week. He crushes over there. I should change this for the FanDuel, so I just put that in his GPP. He is heavily involved in the passing game. A little bit last week, maybe because Kittle was out, but at his price point on DraftKings, like, he doesn't need to do much to pay off $1,600. Like, 2-3 catches, 30 yards, he smashes value. So I really like him here. I think he's going to score a touchdown tonight. SuperDraft, again, Allison, 4.5 multiplier. I'm always looking for that guy on SuperDraft that is involved in the offense, playing lots of snaps, and has a super high multiplier, right? Allison has 2-3 catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown. He's probably going to be the nuts play in that spot tonight. Graham, similar super high multiplier for his involvement, especially in the red zone. I think that kickers are always in play on SuperDraft. You need to remember that. Kendrick Bourne has started to carve himself out a role here, right? And he's over 3. I think both quarterbacks, even though their multipliers are low, are definitely in play. I think this is they spread the ball out a ton. And if they throw 2-3 touchdown passes each, they're both going to be in the winning lineup. I think that, like I said, Kittle too high, Coleman too high. Definitely some good spots there on SuperDraft. If you're going there, just a quick look over at FanDuel or over at DraftKings. I spread out that captain exposure a little bit more here. Really like the spot for Adams with the PPR. He could get 9-10 catches and 100 yards. He's going to smash if he does that, like Coleman here. I really like the 49ers defense, and I like the 49ers defense with like an Adams or a Rodgers in the captain spot. It makes your lineup unique. Rodgers takes sacks, right? He could get sacked 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8 even times tonight. I think that's not really out of the picture here. His line's better this year, but still not great. And this pass rush is unreal for the 49ers. So they're going to be after him. I think that it's possible we see like a sack, fumble, pick 6. And that puts the 49ers in play for the nuts lineup, right? Well, now if we have that pick 6, we got Rodgers in our captain spot. They're down, he's going to be chucking it, right? So we could see, kind of the way I want to set up those lineups are Rodgers captain, Adams, 49ers D, Tevin Coleman, and then kind of, look at maybe a Chase McLaughlin or somebody like that, and then another pass catcher, like a Jimmy Graham, see if that kind of works for DraftKings. So definitely like that. I like Jamal Williams a lot more on DK because of the PPR. Think that he's definitely in play. MVS, again, just way too cheap for that guy's skill set. Allison, cheap. And then use check, I really do like at 1,600 here. So I talk about Green Bay Packers D2 showdowns. You got to play guys, right? You got to get exposure to some of these defenses. That's just the way it is. So definitely like them a little bit, 5-10%. So let's talk about. Let's see if I got the DS up here. This is my exposures from earlier today. Man, that Devontae Parker, 44%. Could have used that couple extra yards there to get to 100. Demaryius Thomas, 27%. Could have used that touchdown not to get called back. But we do have some Chark and Moore and 17% Jarvis Landry here, which should help me out. If you guys want to see some of my other exposures here, Kamara, I was heavily invested in. Chubb, definitely. Jacobs, Cohen, had a lot of Barkley, had a lot of Christian McCaffrey. Here's how my QBs kind of went. Lots and lots of fits. And then about 13% of everybody else, 10% Mayfield, 10% Driscoll. So I'm having a decent day. We'll see what happens here in the next little part here. I want to see how much Russell Gage I had. He had a big day today for those guys. Kelvin Ridley, guy I faded, right? Wrote about that. Michael Thomas, guy I faded. Those guys will probably end up coming back and hurting me a little here. I had 14% Russell Gage. That's not bad. But lots of Matt Ryan with him. So that's always zero fun. All right, let's reset this thing up for Showdown tonight. I want to do FanDuel, and we'll just kind of look at what it looks like if you're going to run 150 with just A-Rod, right? Let's go with single game. Slates, Green Bay and San Fran. All right. I'm always bumping the rando. Big time. All right. 150 lineups. I want at least one unique player. It's hard to get two with 150 if you're just running one captain. So I'm going to go to MVP, and I'm going to go exposure minimum to Aaron Rodgers at 100. All right. All players, open stacking options. If I want to stack Aaron Rodgers in the MVP, I need no less than, I think you really can go one here. I don't think you need two. I don't think you need two. But I want Adams. I'm going to keep this kind of tight. Jimmy Graham or Jamal Williams. I'm not going to mess with MVS and Allison and those guys. I think that these are the three most likely touchdown pass catchers tonight. So now just let it buck, right? Let's see what we get. See if it runs pretty fast. So it looks like I'm getting lots of Coleman, lots of Jamal Williams, decent amount of Mostert. So what I might need to do here is reset this. I'm actually going to abort this right now. And I'm going to reset this to put it so I don't really want Coleman and Mostert. I think they can be in the same lineup, but Coleman is in the flex and stack with no less than 0 or exactly 0. Geek would get mad at me if I put it in there like that, even though it works. Mostert. Okay, I'm also going to put in no double kicker. Crosby, exactly 0. McLaughlin, add that. Also going to add a little bit of FP range here. Make sure I'm not getting anybody that I don't need in there. Looks good. Let's run it. All right, now let's see what we get. Lots and lots of. So what I always look for here too is that, you know, as I kind of watch this build, I'm looking at, okay, what's my top projected lineup? My top projected lineup right now is going to be Rodgers, Williams, Adams, Coleman, and McLaughlin. I love that lineup, right? Top projected, I got Rodgers, Graham, Williams, Coleman, Garoppolo. Again, love that lineup. All right, both use almost all of their salary, which I think is fine. You don't need to. You don't need to use 50,000 on FanDuel, right? Or DraftKings for that matter. Like, use your salary; it's there. Like, you want to differentiate. I get that, right? Like, this might be a pretty chalky lineup, but at the same time, like with how often that on FanDuel, how often they're splitting stuff, like you gotta get involved in using all of the salary. So right now, lots of we look at here. I got 100% Rodgers, obviously in the MVP, 57% Adams, 50% Coleman. Graham coming in quite a bit. Jamal Williams, Jones, not quite as much. Allison, Scantling, getting some Ross Dwelly. If I was actually going to run this again, I'd probably drop him down. And then I'm going to probably have to bump up George Kittle's projection here. And that's something that everybody should do if he's active tonight. So you're going to need to, we might be able to get that in for you. But if you are running anytime in the next hour or two here, I would bump this projection up to, man, at least, I don't know, like at least 10, 11, 12 points. Because you're going to want a ton of exposure here. So what I'm not getting a ton of, I guess I got 23% Samuel and 22% Sanders. That's not bad, right? But I'm not getting a lot of these pass catchers. I should put in the other one you might want to do is if Jimmy Garoppolo is in the flex, you might want to put him with one pass catcher, right? So you can continue to kind of adjust and tweak that, but you could just run this right now and put it in and let her buck. And I think you'd come out in the positive, right? Again, I really like Rodgers tonight. Look, that took me 2 minutes, I might have to go back in and make a couple more edits if I wanted to. Now I just run 150 with Jimmy Garoppolo, or I'd run 150 with Tevin Coleman or Aaron Jones. And you might need to, go in and change things a little bit, but 30 minutes, you got 600 lineups and all correlated and stacked properly. And pretty easy to do with our tools here at DFS Army. So hope the rest of your main slate goes well. Looking forward to Showdown tonight. You can catch me in the coaching channels if you have any questions. Hit me up, DFS Up North. I got to go head back out and finish the lights before it gets dark here in the tundra. So we'll be back in a little bit, and good luck tonight.